Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This is Eisenherz and today we have a second part in my mini-series about how I prepare for my first CDH tournament. Last week I explained how I chose and brewed my list for this tournament. If you want to watch that video, you can find a link to it in the description box down below. Today I want to share my approach and how I try to get a feel for the deck and for the tournament meta. So without further ado, let's get started. So as you know, I signed up for an EDH tournament in July. But I will not be playing one of my own decks. I will be piloting Blue Farm, which is a deck I have little to no experience with as a pilot, but I've played against plenty of times. Additionally, I have never participated in a CDH tournament, neither online nor in real life. So in order to increase my chances of succeeding in this tournament, I will need to learn two very fundamental things. First, I need to get a general understanding of tournament metas and tournament specificities. And second, I of course need to get proficient at piloting my deck. So how do I approach this? I'm a total noob when it comes to tournament EDH, but there are a lot of people with a lot of experience, and luckily I know some of them. So why not get input from those people? There is no need for me to try to reinvent the wheel, right? So my first step in trying to get input was to read and watch as many tournament recaps as possible. With more and more CDH tournaments every month, there are a ton of resources to explore. For example, I watched a lot of Comedian's tournament recaps where he analyzes the top 4 decks of certain tournaments. Furthermore, I made sure to watch Brian Koval's tournament recap, in which he explains how he brewed his Blue Farm list and how he approached piloting in the tournament. And that's a video I used as baseline for my Blue Farm list and also for my piloting approach, because it's very similar to how I pilot in general. Additionally, there is now EDH Top 16, which gives me a good overview about widely played decks, so decks I might face in the Swiss rounds, and also very successful decks, so decks I might face in the top 4, of course, if I make it that far. So yeah, this gave me a good overview about general tournament metas. I can now prepare for what I might face, but I'm also lucky enough to be well connected in the CDH community, which means that I can easily reach out to some very experienced players to get some additional input and also even one-on-one coaching. So that's what I did. I'm good friends with the infamous Memo, who has a lot of top 16 and top 4 placements under his belt, and I asked him to coach me during this prep, and luckily he agreed. So during all of my preparation steps, Memo is my most important source of input. He helped me choose a deck for the tournament, and together we analyzed how I play and what cards fit my piloting style best. We took notes on some flex slots and also on cards that could be slotted in if we want to make some changes to the list. For example, the slot of Fairy Mastermind competes with other evasive creatures like Sarah Ascendant, and Lavinia has the issue of potentially king-making an opponent, so we also have an eye on how she performs in playtesting. Also, Memo and I play against each other multiple times a week, but for the tournament prep we decided to bring our game to the next level. As a coach, Memo is now super strict with me in every single game. He denies any takebacks, he does not remind me of any triggers, he makes sure that I don't remind my opponents of their triggers unless I absolutely have to, and he also makes sure not to help me when I'm stuck with my sequencing and piloting. He does, however, take time after almost all of our games for a quick post-game analysis. We take the time to look at cards that are flex slots and how they performed. We also analyze my piloting, my sequencing, and of course my starting hand and my threat assessment in general. For example, a few days ago I had a turn 1 Crom, but I sequenced it wrong. Memo took a note on that, and after the game he explained to me what I did wrong. So in that game I had Land, Jeweled Lotus, Rite of Flame, Crown. This sequencing is not good because revealing the Jeweled Lotus incentivizes my opponents to counter the Rite of Flame, so I don't have enough mana for the Crown. But if I sequence it the other way around, so I go Land, Rite of Flame, then reveal the Jeweled Lotus and then cast Crown, it might be just too late to counter with a mental misstep. So sequencing it that way is just a little bit more optimal. But yeah, it might be obvious for some of you guys, but I just have so little experience with this deck that I just sometimes get overly excited for such a good play and then I just mess up these tiny little details which could be relevant in a tournament. Well, and Memo points out these misplays not during the game, but after the game, which is a great help because I'm still in the very early learning stages of piloting Blue Farm. Now, some of you might know that I used to compete in powerlifting for a while, and our workouts would change depending on how close the next meet would be. If we were far away from the next competition or meet, we would have a lot of unspecific high volume workouts to increase our workload, maximize hypertrophy, and optimize the movement. And for this tournament prep, I basically do the same thing right now. I try to increase and maximize my training volume by playing as many games as I can. Obviously, I'm not maximizing hypertrophy, but I'm still kind of optimizing movement, or let's say sequencing and decision making. The logic is as follows. The more games I play, the more familiar I will be with certain situations and scenarios like mulligans or having a payoff spell or tutor in hand. This means that I won't have to think about these scenarios and these decisions as much as I have to do right now, which will free my working memory for more important stuff like threat assessment and politics. And in my opinion, this is what makes expertise with a deck. With Urza and Omnath, for example, I hardly have to think about a good hand or what to tutor for, because I'm already so experienced with the deck that I know what to grab or what to keep in most situations. And I'm just not at that point with Blue Farm yet. Right now, every situation is basically new for me and therefore demands a lot of my cognitive resources. And by playing more and more and more games, these situations will be automated and my working memory will be freed for other stuff. Now, the closer we get to the tournament itself, the more my focus during this tournament preparation will shift. In powerlifting, we decrease the training volume and increase the intensity and of course the specificity. The workouts would mimic the competition more and more closely every week. So for EDH, this means I won't try to get as many games in as possible, but I will try to mimic the tournament situation more and more closely every week. I can do that by only playing with competitive rule enforcement, by being highly focused and not letting myself be distracted by anything outside of the game, and by playing as many games as possible in a single sitting, just like you would do in a tournament, where you have to play like 6-7 games, one after the other. So in short, at the moment I'm trying to increase my training volume in order to optimize my understanding of the deck and my piloting decisions. But the closer we get to the tournament itself, the more I will decrease the volume and increase the intensity and specificity of my preparation in order to be ready for the actual tournament day. I hope that makes sense for all of you. It certainly does for me. And in the next video, I will go into a little bit more detail how I log my games for this tournament preparation. At that point, I will have a little bit more data to make a more informed decision on why I make certain changes to my deck list and how cards performed in playtesting. And that's it for the second part of this mini-series. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, share the video with your friends, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content in the future. This is Eisenherz and auf Wiedersehen.